welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera passions. I am your regular host, Latara, back today with our passions extraordinaire, Maria.
Hello. Hey, ooh, I get an audience. Yay! All these people in my house.
Especially since if you're not watching and you're listening, Maria is like wearing an authentic Passions merch hat from the NBC store. And she's also wearing a Passions t-shirt, which is not as authentic. It came from my website, but it looks good. It looks great.
And I will actually say that it's not by mistake that I made sure to pick this shirt because it features Ethan and Gwen, and you can't see the rest of the cast. And that's all I cared about.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. And you know, you're on another week where there is no Gwen whatsoever.
I know. It's like you're punishing me again. I guess it was too much last week. No, it was too much for you, right? With the, celebrating and Ethan and Gwen.
Yeah, you had your champagne. You had everything. No, Gwen's somewhere recuperating from her 2 times of sex with Ethan. So she wasn't.
It's been so long.
She wasn't in this week, and neither was Ivy or Rebecca, which was interesting.
No.
Yeah. No. You would think they would be. Well, you know what? We're going to get to it.
We'll get to it.
We'll talk to it. Before we get started, we got to say a quick shout out to all our Patreons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Brelyn, Lisa, Sid, Sarana, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean, S, Larissa, Maria, George Lopez Fitzgerald, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Justin, Paige, Casey, Garange, Tom Bergeron, Pablo, Daisy, Shane, Kelly, and Taylor Harris Crane. Thank you all so much for being patrons and hanging in there with me. I love hanging out with y'all when we do our watch parties. And we're going to be doing Halloween party soon, watch party / Halloween party, the 28th, which this episode will be out by then, I believe. So, oh well. But if you're on the Patreon, you will see the list of events before I announce them on the podcast. They get up before, well in advance usually. So
and if this is posted after the party, then I'm gonna say, oh my god, we had such a great time. Oh, you guys. It was great. You should have joined. It was amazing.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a good time this year because we're not doing it like on Halloween. It's like before Halloween. So because people had plans last year, but I didn't. So I was like,
no.
Yeah, but
and we should dress up again.
Yeah, I'm debating on if I want to do Tabitha again, or I have something else in mind. I just have to see if I can pull it together. I have to see if I can pull it together. But it's a surprise. If I can't pull it together, then I think I'll just do Tabitha again because I have the wig. Yeah. Today, though, we're not going to start with Theresa and her dumbass decisions. Today, we are going to start with magic. All right. So they're having an 18th birthday party for Charity. Remember? Yes. But Charity's not there. Just a reminder to everyone. We have zombie Charity. Real Charity we haven't seen in months. Real Charity's on ice.
Still a block of ice.
Yeah. Yes. So
missing her actual 18th birthday, that poor girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel bad for Charity. I do feel bad for Charity, even though she's a very annoying character. And I am basically at my wit's end with this zombie now. I'm like, okay, we've had our fun. It's time to get rid of this bitch. Truly.
And I really do hope that when real Charity comes back, Grace buys her all the presents of all the events that she has missed throughout the years, like she did for her beloved John.
For her beloved John. Yeah, she'll be like, oh, here's your Christmas present. And I wonder if they'll even know that Charity's been gone.
No, they wouldn't. That was actually just a joke at the ridiculousness of her buying these gifts for John at Charity's birthday party.
I do wonder how, because I don't remember how this whole storyline with the zombie wraps up. And I do wonder if it comes out and they realize the real Charity's just been gone for months. We'll get
and
eventually.
True Passions fashion or soap opera trope, I am sure when Charity comes out of this, she'll have amnesia.
Oh, 100%. She's not gonna remember
Yeah,
anything.
we all know. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like I'm gonna just predict this. Not a spoiler because I don't remember, but I'm gonna predict she's gonna have amnesia.
Yeah, she's not gonna remember. So let's talk about what we remember from these episodes.
Yes.
Zombie Charity has a voodoo doll of Grace and is torturing the doll, which in turn is torturing Grace. And Kay, she's doing this all to like torture Kay and make Kay promise not to say anything about her being a zombie. And so Kay begs her, please, please stop. Don't hurt my mom anymore. Please, you're gonna kill her. Because at this point, Grace is like writhing in pain on the ground. She's screaming, Eve, what's wrong with me? Eve, what? Do something. And Eve, Dr. Eve, is just like, it just has her hands on Grace and is just trying to keep her like, I guess, calm. But like, call an ambulance. You're a doctor. Wouldn't you have immediately called 911? Somebody goes into like
give her a sedative. Give her a sedative.
Yes.
Play the sound.
You want a sedative or something to quiet your nerves?
Yeah, she needs to give her a sedative. The one time somebody actually needs one.
Exactly.
And
Crazy.
or an ambulance because something horrible is happening to her. And so yeah, Grace is in agony. The zombie then tells Kay, if you promise not to tell Miguel that I'm a zombie and he's gonna die if he has sex with me, then I'll stop, right? And Kay agrees, but then actually, I want to say exactly what she said, because she says, promise me that you'll never tell Miguel that I'm a zombie and I'll let the casserole queen live to bake another day.
Oh my God, I was dying. That was so funny.
It was so funny because at one point she was like, look at the bright side, Kay. You'll never have to eat another tomato soup cake again.
That damn soup cake.
And so, yeah, she's like, Kay says, I promise. And then the zombie's like, ha ha ha, I was just kidding. And she pulls out a candle and holds the doll over a lit flame. And so Grace goes into even more agony. Like, she's just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm on fire. And Eve isn't really doing anything about it, even though she should have called 911 by now. Meanwhile, Father Lonigan is randomly here yelling about evil. He's like, there's nothing you can do, Dr. Russell. Evil has returned to Harmony and attacked Grace. We must all pray to rid this innocent woman of the evil that holds her in its grips. And then everybody just drops to their knees and starts praying.
A prayer circle. Like, we're really, now we know why he was invited. Like, this is why the show made sure to cast the actor this week, because they're like, prayer circle.
It's him there. He's there just to say, like, evil is here. Evil. He's there just so that Eve doesn't send Grace to the hospital, basically. Because if Grace has to go to the hospital, that breaks up the whole party, and they need the party to go on without like any without it being broken up. So he tells Eve, there's nothing that medicine can do. It's evil. And she's like, okay, I believe you, I guess. And so we never send poor Grace to the hospital.
No.
Well, she just had a horrible fit. Anyway, Father Lonigan drops his knees. Everybody else follows suit. He prays, oh, divine, eternal Father, I beg you to destroy the power of your greatest enemy, the evil spirits. The writing is hilarious to me.
It's hilarious. And Grace has powers. You would think in such a traumatic way, just like when she lost her baby, she was able to conjure up her power. Why can't she conjure up powers?
Yeah, that's a good
being
point.
Attacked.
That's a good point. You would think she would be able to tap into her powers at this point, but nope, she's just taking it.
Yep.
She's taking it lying down. And so,
literally.
Then Zombie does decide to pull the doll off of the fire. And Grace gets up. She feels fine. She's like, huh. She just pops right up. She feels perfectly fine. And at this point, the zombie tells Kay, like, okay, I'm gonna let your mom live, but you have to get rid of Father Lonigan, right? Get that priest away from here. Like, I don't want to have to see him. He's a little too close for comfort, right?
Yeah.
So
for everyone, like, even he's making me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, he is making me uncomfortable. Like maybe you brought the evil here. Let's be clear. Maybe
Yeah,
it's following you around.
You're attracting it because you hang around any longer, we might see the angel girl, and I don't want to see her either.
I don't.
No,
I really don't want to see her.
And
coming.
Grace, after like going through that experience, because I've experienced, she should have been like, oh, I must have passed kidney stone. Because you feel like you're gonna die when that happens, and then the second it happens, you're like, oh, I'm fine again.
Yeah.
Hey, it must have been a kidney stone. That should have been, you should have just said that. She's like, you passed the kidney stone. You're good. You
passed the kidney stone. You're fine. It wasn't evil, Father Lonigan. It's just basic medical issue that should have been looked at by a doctor. Eve Russell.
Right? She had pains on her side, her back. Classic signs.
They are that. You're actually absolutely right. They are classic signs of a kidney stone. Have you ever had a kidney stone?
Yes, and recently, like about a month ago, I was immediately went to the house because I didn't know what the hell was wrong with me. I was like, what? Because I never had one.
Yeah.
I was there for like 8 hours, and finally they did a CAT scan. They were like, oh, kidney stone. Yep, passed one. I was like, great.
See, I went...
And I've had children. Yeah, no, giving birth is worse. No.
Oh.
I actually have to say kidney stone is not worse than contractions. No,
I wouldn't imagine it would be. I had a kidney infection fairly recently, a few months ago, and they thought I had a kidney stone, so they had to like scan it or whatever, and it did hurt a lot. But I didn't have a kidney stone, but my kidney was infected, and that's why I was in agonizing pain.
Pain in that area is so hard to deal with. Because it's like you can't
do anything. You can't get comfortable at all. It's just agonizing. So I feel for Grace.
I know, poor thing.
I feel for you. I feel for you, Grace. So,
but yeah, we move on really quickly to start reading tea leaves.
She pops up, everything's fine. The zombie tells Kay to get Father Lonigan away from her. Get him away from me right the fuck now. And then she goes and orders Tabitha to start reading the tea leaves of the people at the party so we can just like get this pain and suffering going at this party for the, it's not a party unless somebody's crying. Right?
Exactly. And another thing I realized with Father Lonigan, he's like the holder of everyone's secrets because he knows about Kay stuff. Now he knows about Theresa stuff. Like everyone's telling him everything and he's just walking around, And also, is he walking home? Like, because I know he's not getting behind a car. Like, is he that close that he could just walk?
Oh my God. Of course he's not driving. We usually see him walking.
Yeah.
Like we usually see him walking up to places. No, he's not driving.
Yeah. So we should have offered to take him home.
Yeah. Well,
because we don't know how far.
He's still at the party. Kay just sent him like somewhere to get some food, like inside of the. She took him inside of the house while everybody else is inside, outside. Yeah. So he's still there, but we don't really see him anymore. He has a conversation with Kay, basically saying, "I know you didn't invite evil back here again, considering your track record." And she's like, "No, Father, I didn't invite evil." And in her head, she's like, It just kind of happened by accident. I didn't invite it this time.
I mean, she did conjure up the zombie. So in a sense, no, you did do it. You did do it.
She definitely did it, but this time it was an accident. The first time she like knew Hecuba was evil and was like, I'll do anything to get rid of Charity. This time she thought that she was getting like a body double that she could direct to do whatever she wants to do. She didn't consider it necessarily like an evil force, even though she probably should have thought twice, but she's a child. So
did she not read the cover of the book? Isn't it like called the Evil Book of Spells?
Does it say evil? I don't think it says. I don't remember. I think it's the Big Book of Spells.
Oh, the big book. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't actually know.
It's not like any of the spells in there are like good spells. So I'm going that they're all evil.
Listen, Timmy took one out of the book that's supposed to save Charity. So I don't know. Is that true? I think it's right. All in the way you use it. I think the spells are all in the evil comes from the intent, I think, when you use the spell, when you cast it. So if the caster is evil, then the spell will be evil. But if the caster doesn't intend evil or harm, then it'll be fine. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
So Tabitha has to read all these tea leaves. Now, There was some points when the audio cut out and I simply didn't care. I just was like, I'm sure she, 'cause it was like dialogue between Zombie and Tabitha. So I just knew it was like,
Yeah.
you better
Well, that's
do what
because
I tell
Chad
you to
finally
do.
showed up and started playing music.
Yep,
He
Chad
finally
shows up
showed up.
and the
He's like,
sound
oh
goes
yeah, I was
out.
hired to this party and I'm gonna be like halfway late.
Yeah, I know. He was so late, but he was there. And so the sound goes out because he's starting to play songs with that are copywritten. And so YouTube has them cut out. So anyway, I didn't go check exactly what the dialogue was between Zombie and Tabitha. I imagine it went something like this. Tabitha, it's time for you to read the tea leaves. Oh, you evil zombie. Wait. Okay, go ahead.
You gotta
You're
sharpen
so
it up.
evil. I don't think this is a good idea. You'll read the tea leaves or I'm gonna kill your sweet little Tim Tim.
Oh.
Okay, fine. And I imagine that's what the dialogue was. Basically, because we get Tabitha telling us like, I have to do this or the zombie's gonna kill Timmy. I have to do this to keep Timmy safe. So anyway,
I don't understand why we're trusting
reenactment.
I don't understand why we're trusting her word. It's a zombie and she's already proved that she's like, yeah, I'm gonna not do that. And then immediately, yeah, I was lying.
I think with Tabitha is like she's gonna take what she can get. Yeah. Of course she doesn't trust her, but I think she's like, if there's even a chance I can save Timmy by doing this, I'm gonna do it. And I don't really completely understand why Tabitha is so against reading the tea leaves, considering like her whole purpose in this town has been to bring pain and suffering. She's always trying up to some tricks, but I guess it's because it's the zombies thing and not hers. And maybe she's a little jealous. I don't know. But also, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, also, this is like such a public space and there's so many people there. And Tabitha never wants to get found out as a witch, right? And so if she doesn't want to bring too much suspicion on herself. So actually,
Despite Reese, which I have so many moments where I'm like, shut up, Reese. Shut up, Reese.
Shut up, Reese. So Tabitha starts reading the tea leaves. She starts with Eve. And sorry. One thing I want to say. The zombie gives Tabitha some of her powers back. That's important to say. Which was exciting. I was like, yes, getting some power.
Which is weird that the zombie just didn't control what people were seeing. She left it up to Tabitha.
I think she wanted to be clear of any and all suspicion, right? Like if Tabitha's doing it, then there's no way that the zombie charity has anything to do with it, right?
True.
Yeah, so especially considering she's been acting so weird and people had already been kind of suspicious of her. So
True.
I think maybe
she also wants to sneak out and boing Miguel. So if she leaves, then they can't be distracted by tea readings.
Exactly. So Zombie Charity gives Tabitha some of her powers back, and she says, so you need to make these tea leaf readings really special and memorable. And if you don't, then Tim Tim's as good as dead. That's what she says to her. So Tabitha serves tea to Zombie wanted her to start with the mothers, Pilar, Eve, and Grace. And then she said, and then you can do the kids, right? So Tabitha pours tea for them, and we start with Eve. She tells them this is a new kind of tea leaf reading where they just need to take a sip of the tea and then look into their cups, and they will see you'll see your own future. So truthfully, what they are seeing is what Zombie Charity wants them to see. That's what Tabitha says, like in an aside.
And they're the only ones that can see it.
Yes, and they're the only ones who can see what's in their teacup, with the exception of probably Tabitha and the zombie. So,
of course.
Eve takes a sip first, looks into her cup, and she sees herself fighting with Whitney first. Then she sees Whitney and Simone fight. And when I say fighting, I mean like fist fighting.
Breaking coffee tables. They're like going at it. But I also want to point out, because I don't know if we've gotten to this point yet, Simone still thinks she and Chad are a thing.
Yeah, which is crazy because we haven't seen them together in forever.
Yeah,
We haven't seen
it's
them
like
together
the
in
way she's
forever.
talking to him, and he's still not telling her, like, no, not into you.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't quite as explicit as it has been in the past, where she's saying like, "Chad's my boyfriend, Chad's my boyfriend." But well, actually, you know what it is too. She's trying to be discreet because she knows that both of her parents are there, and she knows that they don't really want her talking to Chad, even though she had a conversation with her mom where her mom basically says she's going to ease up on Chad, but she can't do anything about TC really. But we will talk about that. We will talk about that.
Okay.
So Eve she sees herself fighting with Whitney.
Mhm.
Then she sees Whitney and Simone fist fighting with each other. And then she sees TC attacking and killing Chad. And of
Yes.
course, all of this is deeply distressing, right? And everybody's like, whoa, what did you see? What's wrong? Because she's clearly very worked up. She explains what she saw, and then TC and Grace are like, "Oh, you couldn't have seen that. Like that. I'm sure it's just your eyes playing a trick on you. That's total nonsense." TC's like, "Yeah, I know I've lost my temper before with Chad, but I would never kill. Like that was because I saw him in Whitney's bedroom, and like I was just in a fit of rage at that moment, but that was just that moment." So they just kind of reassure her that everything is going to be fine and that it's just a parlor trick. This is a crazy parlor trick, by the way.
And TC, dude, you attacked the man at the youth center with no evidence of anything, just because you thought maybe he was the one that drugged Whitney.
He attacked him at the youth center. He attacked him at his house. He attacked him when he was in the car. It is not outside of the realm of reason that TC might possibly kill Chad. Like, even if he wasn't really truly intending to kill Chad, it is a very real possibility that he could accidentally kill Chad. Just based on how much force he uses when he grabs him, when he punches him. You know, anything.
And isn't that what Eve saw? It was like an accidental thing, like pushed them and he like cracked his neck.
Yeah, I think maybe. Yeah, I think it was.
Or was it choking?
Like yeah,
or maybe he did choke.
There were so many people getting choked and murdered this week in these visions that I can't keep them straight entirely. I just know that Chad died in her vision. So
yes, and it was TC, and TC had the nerve to say, "I would never attack Chad."
Yeah,
we literally saw you do it multiple times.
Yeah. So meanwhile, during all of this tea leaf stuff, Kay has a conversation with Father Lonigan, who asks her if she has anything to do with the evil that he sensed. She tells him no, and he says good, because you know the consequences of flirting with evil. Then the zombie catches up with Kay and shows her a vision of Kay holding Miguel's dead body, screaming, "It's all my fault. It's all my fault." She also turns Kay into a chicken momentarily for some reason. Yeah. She's like, "You're just chicken, Kay." And then she turns her into a chicken. I didn't fully understand this dialogue. I didn't understand the conversation they were having, to be honest. Like, I wasn't sure why they were even doing this, because Kay has already basically agreed to not say anything for right now. So I
think she was just showboating.
Yeah. The zombie's just out of control. And so then Miguel comes over to Charity and gives her his birthday gift for her, right? And we remember that his birthday gift for her that we saw last week was like a negligee. And this thing, we see it later, and it's actually sexy. Like, he actually picked out something so cute and sexy versus what she had already picked out for herself.
He probably realized, like, let me go shopping, because these girls don't know how to shop for stuff.
They don't know what's actually sexy. No, what he got for her was actually really cute. So anyway, he gives her that gift. They kiss. They talk about meeting up at the hotel later, right? Tabitha is still doing her party trick, her tea leaves, right? So the next victim is Pilar, of course, and Pilar takes it, which is interesting that Pilar even engaged in this. I'm shocked
Yes.
that she even engaged in this, because I know it's something that she, one, does not believe in, and is two, very like adamantly is against. When Theresa told her about Tabitha reading her tea leaves, she like chastised Theresa about it. You know, it's like the church doesn't believe in such things. You know, you shouldn't be playing with that. That's not something to play with. But she sits down and does it willingly, which I just thought was odd.
Yeah.
So she takes a sip of her tea and she sees Miguel asleep, what she thought was asleep at first, and then realizes he's dead in a bed in some room, in a hotel room. She's like, I don't know this place, but it's beautiful. And my Miguel is in the bed, and then she realizes he's dead, and she's like, oh my God, and it deeply upsets her, of course. Miguel runs in to comfort her, saying like he heard her scream. And then Eve, who had the same thing basically happen to her, says, you know, yes, Pilar, don't worry about it. It's the same thing happened to me. It's just a trick. Our eyes are playing tricks on us. And so then somehow Pilar is persuaded to continue with this tea leaf reading. I don't know why she continued with this.
It's so out of character.
She's
really so
is.
religious. And this
Yeah.
does not seem like something that she would partake in. It would be blasphemous.
Yeah. And we've heard her say as much, right? She said that she's against it. So it's so interesting that she did it, had a bad experience, and then continued. So she looks back down into her cup and she sees Theresa about to be executed. And y'all, the best part of this is that Eve is the executioner.
You want a sedative or something to quiet your nerves?
Eve, Dr. Death herself, gives Theresa her deadly dose of lethal injection medicine, right?
Yeah. No, and I love that the poison has like the skull and crossbones on it. And it unfortunately looks like urine.
I didn't even notice that, but yeah, the whole thing was
like,
the whole thing
like,
was
that is
dark.
not how it's done.
Well, the whole thing was like very dark, but it also was so silly.
Yes.
Like, this is so silly.
Because they would not have Eve do it.
No, of course they wouldn't have Eve do it. Eve is the executioner.
Eve.
But you know what? Maybe she is.
It would go against her Hippocratic oath if she, well, I mean, does she actually care about her Hippocratic oath?
No, she does not. Do no harm. This lady has done so much damn harm. Please.
Yeah.
Orville.
Yeah, but it is
justice
the
for
ultimate
Orville.
sedative.
I will always say that.
It's the ultimate sedative. So she would probably relish in this. Like, I'm going to give you the best sedative.
You're going to sleep
ever.
so well forever.
So well. Interesting. In her vision, no Ethan. It was just Luis and Miguel.
Yeah,
no
well,
Ethan.
that makes sense. It shouldn't. Why should she consider Ethan in her like vision of her daughter and her family being destroyed? Like, sure, they say Ethan's like family, but he's not her family. You know?
No. Yeah.
So
it's good to know that Pilar's not as obsessed that even in her visions, Ethan has to always be there.
Oh yeah, no, Pilar. That's only Theresa.
Yeah.
Only Theresa cares that much about Ethan that she would have him in every single vision, every single fantasy, every single thought that crosses her mind. It doesn't matter what it's about. She's going to insert Ethan, which is stupid. But yes, she sees Pilar. She sees Theresa being put to death by Eve Russell, Dr. Death herself. And then she gets another vision of Antonio fighting with someone. And so, and she doesn't know who that person is. But Pilar gets up and she rushes off. She's like, I have to find Luis. I need to make sure that my family's okay. I have to go find Luis. So she goes driving off. We will pick up with Pilar in the Theresa storyline.
Yes.
We're going to stay here with the evil zombie who whispers some more of an evil plan into Tabitha's ear. I don't know what the plan was, but Tabitha is appalled and she says, that the zombie is beyond evil for whatever she says. I was like, oh, beyond evil. So I don't know what the next portion was. I don't think we see it.
Could it, like, does Tabitha know what her plan is for Miguel? Or has she only been telling Kay?
No. She definitely knows. Tabitha has known before, knew longer before Kay did, that the
Okay.
zombie wanted to have sex with Miguel and that he was gonna die. And
Okay.
for Tabitha's like, yeah, no, that works for me. She's been trying to
Yeah.
kill Miguel since day one, since Charity showed up.
That's also true because then Charity wouldn't be able to come into her full power.
Yeah, exactly. So, Kay again pleads for Miguel's life, but the zombie at first is like, okay, Kay. And then she's like, lied. Of course I'm gonna kill him.
And she's like, happy birthday to, she started singing happy birthday to herself, which was hysterical.
Yep. And she says, once I make up my mind, it never changes. Miguel is going to die tonight.
Yeah, making some sweet, sweet loving.
So Kay, of course, in her mind is like, no, I won't let this happen. I'm going to stop this no matter what I have to do. So at this point, Miguel and Zombie Charity were supposed to be like slipping out of the party, going to the hotel or whatever. But Miguel is worried about his mother who rushed off, panicked, right?
Yes.
And he's like, maybe I should go after my mom. He talks to Zombie Charity about it and she guilts him into going to the hotel with her instead. She's like, oh, but it's my birthday.
Which is the worst. You're literally telling a guy that your birthday is more important than his mother.
Yeah, but
he
birthday.
Actually does go and it does work. So his loins.
Yeah. His loins.
Overriding his brain.
Exactly. He was thinking with the little head, not the big head, right?
Yeah, and he's probably like, Luis will handle it.
Yeah, he's like,
I'm
she's
good.
Fine. She's fine. What could be so bad? It couldn't be that bad, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't even know anything about what's going on with Theresa.
I'm about to go get laid. Let's go.
Exactly.
I've been waiting for this.
He's
18
like,
years.
He really is like, says basically that to her. Is like, I've been waiting for this forever. We've waited for so long. Tonight's the night, And so they make a plan to leave separately, so as to not arouse suspicion, right?
Yeah.
He tells Reese that if anybody asks, tell them I went out to buy ice. And Reese is like, oh, we have lots of ice here. I just did my goofy impression, Lisa. I did my goofy impression. Lisa always says that I do my goofy impression when I'm impersonating Ethan, but now I just did it for Reese too. So
yeah.
He's like, we have lots of ice here. And Miguel's like, yeah, I'm not really going to get ice. Like, I'm going to the hotel with Charity. And so Reese is like, oh, okay, buddy, I'll cover for you. Like, get it on. Good luck, guy.
Yeah.
He cheers him on, basically. And then the zombie not the zombie. Kay sees Miguel is leaving. And but that the zombie is still there, so she feels like Miguel is safe. She's like, okay, as long as I have eyes on one of them, I know that Miguel is safe, right? So then the zombie tells Kay that she's gonna go upstairs to change clothes because she like orchestrated a spill on herself.
Yeah.
And so to keep Kay from knowing that the zombie Charity is actually leaving, the zombie goes upstairs, pretends to like be changing clothes, and creates like a shadow of herself so that if anybody's looking up at her window, they can see a shadow of Charity in the silhouette of the curtains. Yeah. Right.
I actually got the spell. Shadow of a demon. Shadow from hell. Hang out here while I jump Miguel.
That's so good though. Hang out here while I jump Miguel. So yeah, she leaves the shadow there. Kay has eyes on the shadow, so she thinks Miguel is fine. And he's not, because the zombie is off to go and have sex with him. And she's driving. Was she in a car? Was she driving? Whose car was that?
I don't know.
I was like, oh, whose car did she take? Do they all have cars now?
I guess they all have cars.
I noticed that Pilar has a car now. Like, Pilar was driving this week, and they made such a big deal about Pilar taking the bus all the time in the first part of the show. So, but maybe she's borrowing a car or something.
Theresa maybe got them all cars.
She wouldn't have taken it. She wouldn't have taken a car from Theresa.
Also true.
Using the cream money.
Also
she,
true.
She would not have accepted that.
Yeah. I wonder if her car payment has lapsed or if her insurance is paid on the car.
I hope she has her insurance paid on that car. Lord Jesus. She can't afford any more losses, this lady. She cannot afford it. Okay. We're almost to the bottom of this. So
Okay.
Meanwhile, at the party, Tabitha is continuing to read tea leaves, and people are still taking her up on the offer to read the tea leaves, even though the first two people who did it saw like horrific things.
Yeah.
So Grace is the next victim. Grace actually doesn't want to. Actually, she.
Oh
says,
yeah, and Tabitha actually is more enthused about this one. It was like, oh, this is the one I really want.
Yeah. Well, I think too, the zombie had made it clear like you need to do the three of them so that Tim can survive, right? So she wanted to make sure she got it done, I guess. And she just likes fucking with Grace. Like she really likes fucking with Grace a lot.
She really does. You could tell.
Yeah.
She took full delight in this one.
She did. So Grace doesn't want to do it. And I was like, smart. That's right, Grace. This is a terrible idea. But Tabitha sufficiently guilts her into doing it. She's like, oh, I'm just a dumb old lady and I just wanted to do something nice for the party. But I don't know. She guilted her. I didn't write it all down, but Grace was guilted. And so she does the reading. She looks in her cup and what she sees is Kay and Charity fighting. And it really upsets her. She sees Kay trying to strangle Charity. And then she goes and finds Kay and questions Kay about this random vision from a teacup. Like, when I say questions, I mean accuses. That's what I mean. It was so infuriating. It was so infuriating. She was like, Kay, I saw a vision of you fighting with Charity. Are you two still fighting over Miguel? Are you still trying to break up her and Miguel? And Kay's like, Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. And mind you, Kay just really kind of saved her life. Let's be honest. Like Kay really just recently.
Grace doesn't know it.
Grace doesn't know it, but I'm just saying, from Kay's perspective, it's like, I was so worried about you. I didn't want you to die. I didn't want you to have be in any pain or agony. But you don't care about me. Like you treat me like shit. So
because she doesn't seem mad at Charity. You don't see her like, where's Charity? I need to ask her why she's fighting with my daughter as well. No,
and
you just
never goes to find. She never goes to find Charity to talk to Charity about it at all, ever. Nope. And yeah, she accuses Kay of like continuing trying to break up Charity and Miguel or fighting with Charity over Miguel, and basically says to her like, I believe you would kill Charity. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
From a mother.
Worst mother of the year.
And sure, did Kay try to kill Charity a couple of times back at the beginning of the show? Sure she did. But that's the old Kay. She's not trying to kill Charity anymore. She's just trying to get Charity out of the picture.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Kay is understandably hurt by her mom's accusations. And she assures her mother that she would never hurt Charity. And she says, and if you want to talk to Charity, like maybe you should go talk to her and ask her about it. And Grace says, maybe I will, but she doesn't. She never does. She never goes to ask Charity about this. So meanwhile, John also is the next tea leaf victim for some reason.
Yeah.
And he looks in his tea leaves and he sees himself fighting with his father. And he's like, this doesn't make any sense. Why would I fight with my dad? He's the greatest person I know. And that's when Reese finally he's been kind of saying little things throughout, but this is when he makes like up his large accusation and like points at Tabitha and says, this is witchcraft. Don't you all see? Tabitha is a witch. And but Tabitha turns the tables on Reese, and she says, "Oh, I am so tired of all these accusations and name calling, and she says she was so hurt. She says, I'm so hurt. I wish I was dead. I didn't want to cause so much trouble. She says she wishes she was dead. I mean, it's so melodramatic, but
oh my God. Over the
everybody
top.
but Reese has sympathy for her. Of course, she's a sweet old lady who just, she's just an eccentric old lady from everybody else's view.
Yeah.
But Reese doesn't let up. He really questions her about her tea. He's like, what's in this tea? Why is it what's making people see these things in the cups? And she says, oh,
and also,
just...
why is it so dark? That should have been the bigger question. I've never seen tea that's dark like that.
Well, she said it's black tea.
It looked like coffee. Oh, yeah, but even black tea. I'm not a huge tea drinker, so it just looked like coffee to me.
I drink a lot of tea, and it I mean, it didn't even really look like anything. I don't know. It looked like, especially once they put the pictures in it, it looked like CGI. Bad. It looked like bad CGI. Even when it was tea form, it didn't, it didn't look particularly good. But
no.
Tabitha says,
probably why you only take a sip.
Yeah. Tabitha says her special brew of tea consists of black tea and some herbs from her garden. And he says, what herbs from your garden? And she says, oh, just some juniper shade and some gooseberries for taste. This is when TC says, let me try the tea. I'm the least susceptible person here. What? I don't know what made him think that. Where'd you think that? Where'd you get that from? I'm the least susceptible person here. Let me try the tea and I'll tell you. And Eve is like, absolutely not. She pours most of the tea out of the kettle. And then Jessica like pickpockets Reese, takes his Palm Pilot out of his back pocket. And she looks up juniper shade and she finds out that it is a hallucinogenic and it can make you hallucinate things. So of course that helps Tabitha's story out. She's like, I didn't know it was a hallucinogenic like that.
I wonder if she did actually know that though.
Of course she does.
Yeah, I'm sure she knows. Like, it's a great way of covering your tracks of giving people visions and then just like, oh yeah, it was the herbs.
Yeah, it was just the juniper shade, which I need to look that up because if I love a good hallucinogenic.
Oh. Nice.
Nice. I don't want any of these kinds of visions, but if it could give me a nice little, walk through a field of flowers or something, I don't know.
I mean, you should take it and then watch Passions and see what you see.
It set me on a bad trip. Oh, that would put me on a bad trip. But I do need to look into the juniper shade.
Yeah, I also want to have a moment of silence for Palm Pilots, if for those that remember those. I had one. I think I still have my Palm Pilot.
Yeah. My dad had one. I thought it was the coolest thing. I thought it was so cool. It's so funny. Yeah. But anyway, the juniper shade, Reese says, Tabitha says, oh, that explains it. It must have made you all hallucinate. Then Tabitha challenges Ross to drink the tea. I don't know why he takes her up on this, considering he thinks she's a witch and that this is all witchcraft. But he drinks the tea after being basically called a chicken or too scared to do it. So he takes a sip, he looks in the cup, and then he gets a pie in the face, and it's like a real pie in his face. But nobody else can see the pie on his face. So again, it just makes it seem like Tabitha is telling the truth about like the hallucinogenic and everybody was just hallucinating.
Oh, she must have loved doing that.
Oh,
to him.
Of course. She definitely got some satisfaction out of that.
Yep.
So after
all
of that,
the rest of us. So thank you, Tabitha.
Thank you, Tabitha. Thank you. After all of that nonsense, Reese is having a conversation with Kay where she asks him, where's Miguel? He tells her he went out to get ice or whatever. But then he does let slip that Miguel and Charity are together and have gone to like a hotel. Like at first he's like covering for Miguel, but then I guess he's like, it doesn't matter if I tell Kay, it's just the parents that he has to keep it from, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so of course this upsets Kay, and she's like, "Oh my God, she escaped me." Goes upstairs, she sees the shadow, and the shadow's like, "It's
Mhm.
too late, Kay. I'm already making sweet love to Miguel, and he'll be dead by the time you get there, by the time you find
Yep.
us." So let's talk about very quickly what happens at the hotel. They get to this hotel together, their little love nest, and
Mhm.
the zombie is really anxious to like start making love. Like she's like trying to she rips his shirt off at one point. It's like, "You have on too many clothes." Oh, she changes into that his outfit for her.
Yeah, the
Like
90. Did
the
you notice how stiff she was when he went to pick her up? Like,
no.
that just stood out to me. Like, she was like a board. I'm like, how tight are those pants? Like, picked her up, she was like straight. I'm like, wow.
I didn't notice, but the pants were tight back in the day. Those
Yeah,
low
sure.
rise jeans, they were
Yeah.
hard to get into, even if you were skinny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this girl. So yeah, they go to this hotel room. The candle budget for these
Oh,
episodes must have been off the fucking charts.
I will give Miguel credit. He has so much romance, probably listening to Theresa all day long because he has the rose petals. He has the candles and like everything. I'm like, your girl. Like, wow. You
He
really
did a
did the
good
room.
job.
Also, where do you work that you could afford that room?
Mm,
It's a really nice
yeah,
room.
that's a good question. Where does
And
Miguel
did
work?
you notice he made sure to like have protection on
I
the
did
bedside
not notice,
table?
but I'm glad.
Yes, he did.
I'm glad
Yes,
to
I'm
know that
glad.
that was there.
Yes.
Yeah, he goes through this room and he sets it up while she's like changing or whatever, right? There's candles absolutely everywhere. He throws rose petals on the bed. He I don't know, all kinds of things. It's just,
Yeah.
he walks around the room, sets it up,
Yeah.
right?
At that point, I was like, there was no sound. So I guess whatever song he put on obviously was copyrighted. So I couldn't, a lot of it, I couldn't even, like, I don't know what they were talking about, but I'm
I
going to
didn't hear it.
assume it's Zombie Charity saying, let's have sex. And Miguel's like, no, let's slow down.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
like,
exactly what it was. She was like really pushing for them to have sex, and he was like, "Let's take it slow. I want this to be a special night for both of us." But yeah, like there was so many candles, and I only say the budget for the episodes for the candles must have been off the charts because when we get to Sheridan too,
yeah.
she sets up a room full of candles. I was like, Jesus, so many candles in
Dimmers,
these
people.
episodes.
Could we just get dimmers? Like, just dim the lights.
Right. Yeah. So they start kind of getting it on Zombie Charity and Miguel. And then Miguel decides, "Oh, I have something special set up for you." And it's a bath. And so they go to take a bath together. They get naked. He's like blown away by her naked body. They see each other naked finally.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
They
yeah.
get in the
There was a
water.
line. Where's the line? Because it was so good. Oh, you never in the mood unless you're in the nude.
You're never
And
in
that's
the
what she like
nude
drops.
unless you're in the nude.
But
I love
what's
that.
funny is that it's like, oh, this is a surprise. You know, close your eyes. But she goes into the bathroom with a towel on. So how much of a surprise is if she had time to change out of her nightie?
Yeah, and she had already been in the bathroom, so I don't know how it was a surprise. She had already been in there, but then he was like, "I have a surprise for you," and it was a bathtub full of
Yeah.
bubble bath and like herbs and stuff. So anyway, they get in the water, and Zombie Charity's like, "What's that smell?" And he says, "Oh, it's just some herbs I got from Tabitha's garden. I thought they would make the bath smell really good." And she's like, smells okay, smells good. And then we see her demon claw because
Yeah.
one thing I forgot to mention is that Reese also looked on the Palm Pilot about what juniper shade was, and it also says that it's a hallucinogenic, but it also said that it brings out the demon within. So that herb is like forcing the demon out of her, basically. So that's
Yeah.
what we
Did you
ended
notice
with them
that
this week.
that the hands had perfect manicures?
Oh,
The demon hand.
listen, they get nice, beautiful manicures down in hell. Okay,
yeah.
they got to keep their claws sharp and clean. Okay,
And clean.
so they can
Yep.
really take people's heads off really easily. Yeah, so that's where we ended this week with the demon claw, and they're in the bathtub, and she's behind him, so he can't really see her because she was like, "Do you want me to watch your back?" Whatever. It was gross. Anyway,
She's like, it's gross. Not
It
as
was.
gross as Brian and Sheridan.
not as gross as Brian and Sheridan, which we are not going to yet because I don't have it in
Oh.
me yet.
No. No.
No, it is time to talk about Theresa and all the crazy stuff she got going on.
Your girl.
My girl, Theresa.
I'm glad that you're wearing shirt in solidarity, though.
Yeah,
Of your lovable
listen,
lunatic.
Theresa. I hate this storyline. I just hate it because it's so stupid. I feel for her, but Whitney says the exact right things that I've been feeling this week. So we'll talk about. We're gonna talk about it now, I guess. Okay, so Teresa's in prison, okay, because obviously she has
Jail.
Yes, jail. She's not
Jail.
quite in prison yet. She's in the jail.
Yeah.
There's a
Mhm.
distinction. There is a difference between jail. and
There is a
prison. They're
huge
two very
difference,
different
yes.
places. So Whitney is there talking to Theresa, trying her best, and still in that Jamaica shirt, trying her best to get Theresa to tell her the truth.
Mhm.
And Teresa's just speaking cryptically about the whole thing. It was all my fault. Julian wouldn't be dead if it wasn't for me. And at one point it seemed like she was going to tell Whitney the truth, but she backs down from it. She's like, "Okay, I'll tell you the truth." And then she doesn't. Because she gets like a fantasy of Ethan in his
Oh my
80th
God.
on his 80th birthday. And he's
Travis in old makeup. Hilarious.
hilarious, ridiculous.
He had to put teeth in to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had honestly, the makeup looked good. He did look like an 80-year-old man.
He did. Oh, quick question. I don't know if we covered it in Magic. Did Kay leave to get to them yet? I know I watched the episode ahead, so I don't remember if that was the episode ahead.
She didn't leave.
She hasn't left yet. Okay.
If she did, it was like right at the tail end, and we didn't really see anything. But I
Got it.
don't think she's left yet.
Got it. All right, never mind then.
So Theresa, she gets the vision of Ethan on his 80th birthday in prison, and the guard's like, "Was it worth it?" And he's like, "It was worth it. I did it for you, Theresa." And then she gets another vision of him being executed now. Is not in 80 years
As a young,
whatever, but as a young man. And so that scares her enough. And she tells Whitney, "I won't recant," because Whitney's been saying, like, "I need you to recant and tell people you didn't mean what you said." She says, "I won't. I'm guilty of murder. What is done is done." And Whitney says, "Well, you need to undo it." I loved this little speech Whitney gave. She says, "You need to undo it. If you don't do it for yourself, then at least do it for the people who love you, your mother, Miguel, Luis, Paloma, even Antonio, and your father. If your father does come back, you won't be here to see him. Please, Theresa, don't sacrifice your life to protect someone else's. Just tell the truth. Admit that you did not kill Julian Crane." And Whitney is like adamant. She refuses to give up on Theresa. Like and I get this. I totally get this, because Whitney, unlike Theresa, Whitney sees the gravity of the situation.
Yes, her frontal lobe is fully grown.
Yeah, it's not
Theresa's
yet,
is not.
But she's closer to there than Theresa is. Because what Teresa's doing doesn't make any sense, but
no,
I've said
she's
that
living in a
times.
fantasy land. It's like she's trying to play a romance novel of like, he's gonna come save me because I'm gonna martyr myself. Girl, you're pregnant. You gotta think about your child.
That's exactly what Whitney says to her next. Whitney says, "You need to think of your baby." And Theresa says, "My baby will be fine. My family will raise it. But your baby's mother will either be in jail forever or dead." What do you mean your baby will be fine? You're going to orphan your baby. Your baby's going to be an orphan because presumably the father is dead as well. And then you will maybe get the death penalty, and your child's going to be an orphan. Your child is not going to be fine, Theresa.
No,
What are
it's
you
not going to be
talking
fine.
about?
And who's to say that the Lopez Fitzgerald is going to get this child? It's a Crane. Alistair will take that baby and raise it.
That's a good point. That is a very good point. Yeah. He could very easily come in and say, you know what, we're taking custody of this baby, and he could get it with no problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone believes that baby is Julian's. Yes, future spoiler alert, it's not Julian's, it's Ethan. And luckily, maybe there's no cameras on the beach, so Alistair never realizes that it's not Julian's. But as of right now, this is the next Crane heir.
Right. Yeah. So you make an excellent point. She's saying her family will raise it. She doesn't have any guarantee that they'll be able to raise the baby, because Alistair might swoop in and say, no, this is our baby. I'm going to raise it in my image and in my likeness. Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, she's not thinking about her baby at all. And then Whitney continues to pressure her and says, I need you to tell me who the real killer is. And Theresa refuses, and Whitney says, well, if you're not going to tell me, I'm just going to sit right here until I figure it out. And of course, it didn't take her long to realize that Theresa, she was like, there's only 3 people in this world you would cover for: your mother, Luis, or Ethan. There's only 3 people in this world you could be covering for. Because I think she would also consider covering for like Whitney or Miguel also, but they weren't what's the word you use when you're accused of murdering somebody? Suspects.
Oh, yeah.
Whitney and Miguel aren't suspects. Yeah. But Luis and Pilar and Ethan are. So in Whitney's mind, she's like, there's only 3 suspects in this case you could be covering for. And it's either your mom, which I know she could never kill anybody, Luis, who would never let you take the fall for him and would have turned himself in by now. Or
which she actually tried to do when,
or you're covering for Ethan. And she says, oh my God, Ethan killed Julian Crane, didn't he? Teresa's like, keep your voice down. So she gives it away.
Shut up.
Yeah,
she gives it away.
And she says, no, Ethan didn't do it. I did it. I did this. Whitney says, no, I don't believe you. She insists that Theresa is covering for Ethan, but Theresa insists that she drop it. And Whitney gives her another good speech. She says, Theresa, this is the real world you're living in, and it's not some kind of romance novel here. If this is some kind of grand gesture to try to get Ethan back, it's not gonna work. If you keep saying that you killed Julian, you could go to prison for the rest of your life. Or worse, you could get the death penalty. Teresa's still not hearing it. It's not going through that blockhead of hers.
What I wish she would have actually brought up was when she was trying to figure out who she would cover for, and she's like, well, it wouldn't be Luis because Luis wouldn't let you do it. She didn't say the same thing about Ethan. Like, Ethan wouldn't let you do it. So what does that say about Ethan?
What does that say about Ethan? So
I mean, she won't hear it, but at least let's make that point. Like, Ethan's really gonna let you take the fall for him.
Put the bug in her ear. Put the bug in her ear and let her think about it. For sure. Yeah. At least let her think about it. So then an officer comes in. It did seem like Whitney was kind of starting to get through to Theresa, but an officer comes in and he kind of breaks their concentration on each other, basically. And so then Whitney goes back out from the cell to talk to Ethan. Meanwhile, another officer comes and he's got the gun from the Crane estate. He had searched the Crane estate, found what they believe is the murder weapon exactly where Theresa said they would find it. So it's not looking good for Theresa, right? Then another officer comes and says he's got the lab report from the gunpowder residue that they did on her gloves. Came back positive for gunpowder residue. Again, not looking good for Theresa. Now we see from Theresa's perspective how the gun actually went off. She fell on the grounds of the Crane mansion and accidentally fired the gun. Right? She fell and she fired the gun, which, like, why are you running around with your finger on the trigger of a gun? Anyway,
She does not know how to handle a weapon properly.
horrible
Does
gun
not know
safety.
gun safety. Yeah.
No, horrible gun safety. And so this is the point when Ethan is like, we got to get Theresa a lawyer. Like, it's not looking
You
good
would
for her.
think. You would
Yeah.
think.
It's not looking good for her.
No,
And
it's not.
So he calls the Crane attorneys, and one of them shows up. Davis is his name. He shows up.
Where's Woody?
Where is Woody? That's what I said. I was like, we need Woody Woodrow.
I wrote that in my
Stumper.
notes. Where's Woody Stumper? How fun would this have been with Woody?
Yeah, and I also said, I was also like, where's Harper? I thought that they would call Harper, but they do mention Harper. Theresa does mention Harper when she meets Davis. She's like, oh yeah, you work with Mr. Harper. Anyway, Davis shows up. Apparently he's the best defense attorney in the state, and they have a conversation about how the Crane name carries a lot of weight in court, and that's going to be a plus for Theresa. And especially since now she's legally Julian's widow, she is a Crane, and they believe that the Cranes are going to take care of her. Basically, Alistair's going to take care of everything because he wouldn't want the Crane name and reputation connected to this. Basically, he doesn't want the Crane name and reputation sullied in any way. It's interesting though, because Ethan and Davis both make the distinction that Alistair cares about the Crane name. Theresa considers herself a Crane, and she says, Alistair, the Cranes take care of their own, which is a loaded statement when you really think about it, because it's true that he's taking care of it on his, not on his own, but he's taking care of it. And he took care of Sheridan. And you see how that turned out. The Cranes take care of their own. And we see him through different ways.
We see him throughout these scenes, like watching the screen and talk about, yes, Theresa, don't worry, we're gonna take care of you, and like, yeah, we're gonna take care of your own. But you killed a Crane.
Right, exactly. And you not only did you kill a Crane, you killed his son. Like, you're admitting to killing his son. Now, do I believe that Alistair knows exactly what actually happened to Julian? Yes, I do. Yes. I think he's just playing a game. And he basically says as much because he has like a little mouse on a little wheel on his desk, and he has a cat, and he's like, very soon I'll let you play your game with the mouse. It's a metaphor for him and Theresa, cat and mouse game, whatever. But he's playing a game with Theresa, a deadly game, but he doesn't care, right? Like,
no, he doesn't care because he has a plan. He does have a plan.
Well,
what bothers me is everyone justifying the murder. Like, no love lost for Julian and what he did, but everyone's all like, yeah, it's fine. It was just Julian. He was hard. He deserved to die.
I can see why it bothers you. It doesn't bother me. And I think it doesn't bother me because people have been murdered for less. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying Julian did a lot of horrible stuff. And the way they frame the Theresa stuff this week with Davis, once Davis goes and talks to Theresa, because he finally says, well, let me talk to Theresa. She admits to him to killing Julian. He's like, you got to stop saying that.
Yeah.
And she says, well, it's true. And he says, well, tell me your story. What happened? And she explains the whole sordid thing. And he says, it's understandable. You killed him in a fit of rage. I think this will play well in court, basically. And, I agree. I think if you hear the whole story, the whole saga, there's no excusing it, but the explanation is understandable. It's reasonable. It's reasonable to think that a woman just snapped after being raped and left, and I don't know. It just I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, they're excusing the murder of Julian, and I think also it's not as heavy either or dark either, because we know that Julian is fine. Like,
we know Julian is fine, but like to use the excuse of like the what's the excuse, the passion, the fit of rage, passion,
A crime of
like
passion.
crime of passion. This seemed more premeditated because she got a gun, she went looking for him. It wasn't like in the moment and like TC would be doing a crime of passion because in the moment he just killed somebody. Everyone went out there with a gun. It was all premeditated. They went out to say, we're going to kill him and we're going to get him.
Well, it would still be a crime of passion because what happened was the reason why everybody was so upset. There was a precipitating event at that party. All of that stuff, all of the information came out at that party. And that's what everybody's learning all of this at the same time. Now, with Theresa, she already knew about all of it, but now she also is just like humiliated. And like, I could see how you could still say this is a crime of passion. Maybe she didn't kill him in the exact moment that she woke up and found out that she was pregnant or what have you. But but they're still connected. So I could see both sides with Theresa was saying like, oh, maybe it's premeditated. But with everybody else, it all really kind of happened at one moment and everybody decided, you know what? It's time to kill Julian.
It's time to kill Julian.
Oh, so crazy. So crazy. But let's go back to Theresa and what's going on here. So Davis believes that Theresa will not get the death penalty. He says that the state hasn't executed anyone in decades, and he doesn't think they're going to start with her. And he says she'll do some time, but he thinks he can probably get it to something that's not life in prison. Yeah. So she's feeling pretty good about this, even though I still think 1 day in prison for a crime I did not commit is a day too long in prison. Okay.
But you wouldn't be confessing to a crime you didn't commit.
Never. You could never get me to confess to a crime I didn't commit. To cover for somebody. And I've said this before. Like I said, my niece is probably the first person that I would cover for because I love her so much. But again, we would make a plan together. Yeah. I would never leave her out of the loop of like, I know you killed somebody, but I'm going to take the fall for it. No, I'll help you bury the body. That's it.
Yeah. And that's it.
That's it. And I will keep my mouth shut, but that's it. I'm not going to the police. You crazy? So anyway, again, Theresa did all this like prematurely. That really drove me crazy. They didn't even have anybody in custody. They didn't even know. They weren't even really on Ethan's trail. She just decided to do it.
Well, she assumed because they were talking about how they were going to go out and, get it through intimidation, which, fine, police department, here we go.
Yeah, that's true. Harmony's fine.
And she assumed that they were going to go and arrest Ethan. So she needed to martyr herself.
You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to say my thank yous to my patrons over on Patreon. So we're going to,
oh my God.
I'm not going to do it at this exact moment, but before we start Sheridan and Louise, I'm going to do it. And I'll cut it into the top part.
To the beginning.
I'll try to remember to do that. Okay. So Davis interviews Theresa. He thinks he can basically get her sentence lightened, basically. And then he gets a phone call from Alistair. And Alistair tells him to make sure Theresa gets the death penalty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alistair tells him you need to make sure that Theresa gets the death penalty. And poor Davis is so confused. He's like, well, I don't know what do you want me to do? Like, do you want her to get bail? Do you not want her to get bail? Because they decide to set a bail hearing for her tonight, right? They use the Crane influence to set a bail hearing, even though it's like late at night. And Alistair just tells him, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But just make sure she gets the death penalty. That's your job. She killed a crane.
That's your job. She killed a crane.
Yeah. She killed a crane. And I get where Alistair's coming from. Truthfully, it's crazy to me that Theresa thinks that like, you're not one of us, bitch. You're not one of us. I don't know why you think because you drunkenly married Julian in Bermuda that we would all of a sudden be considering you one of us. Like, no,
never.
That's crazy.
No, it's amazing he hasn't stepped in earlier already. Like you waited till now.
Yeah.
Like Ivy and Rebecca have been fight. And if anything, I can see Alistair saying like, no, Rebecca, she's the new Mrs. Julian Crane, because I could see him liking Rebecca out of all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. He's also seen the lengths that Rebecca's willing to go to.
Very
with the
Crane-like.
whole Sheridan stuff, because she was all wrapped up in the Sheridan murder. So
Yep.
he has this, so he has that on her too. He has that dirt on her. So yeah, I could see him choosing Rebecca as the rightful heir. But he hates women in general, so
Also true.
yeah, he doesn't want anybody to. He doesn't want any of these three women to have any of the Crane power. He didn't even want Sheridan to have any of it, and she is
Also true.
She is a Crane, an actual Crane.
She is.
Yeah,
She's an actual Crane. I guess then he must be thinking long game and thinking about Theresa's baby.
yeah. I think he's thinking about the baby. I also think that he just is a bored billionaire and likes to just like, fuck with people's lives.
Yes.
If he
Good point.
wasn't the kind of person who just like likes to fuck with people's lives, he wouldn't have all of those screens watching the people in town and pulling strings and playing Puppet Master. He's just a psychopath.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God, the stuff he must have seen with Julie and Rebecca.
And he watched too. He did.
And he watched.
And he watched. It's just he's a like I said, he's a psycho. He's a psycho. Something is wrong with him.
Yeah.
So anyway, he goes to talk to Theresa. Whitney comes in. Oh, yes. Let's talk about Whitney. Whitney comes to Ethan and asks him, she says, I'm gonna ask you this one time, but I need to know, did you kill Julian? He vehemently denies it. He says, no, I didn't kill. Why would you think I would? You think I would kill Julian? You think I could kill somebody? He's like offended that she even thinks that. And she says to him, well, I believe Theresa's covering for someone. I don't believe she did this. And there's only 3 people I can think of that she would cover for. And that's you, his mama, or her mama and her brother. But Ethan says, well, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. She's not covering for me. Ugh.
I love that I love that Whitney has more trust in Ethan than Theresa. Because that's all Theresa needed to do. Just ask him.
That's all Theresa needed to do. That's all Theresa. God damn it.
That's all she needed to do. Because even if he said, yeah, it was me, then he would have at least said, okay, let's work together to figure this out. Like, they could have worked together. It could have actually been a great bonding moment for those two.
That's what I've been saying. I was like, this was a perfect opportunity for her to get closer to Ethan. Perfect opportunity for her to get closer to Ethan. But she decided to martyr herself. Okay, fine. So, Ethan tells her no, in no uncertain terms, I did not do this. So she's still like, well, I don't know who Theresa's covering for, and I don't know why she's doing this. It is at this point they all go to Theresa's bail hearing. And again, Alistair has already called Davis and told him, make sure that Theresa gets the death penalty. So he's confused, doesn't know what's going to happen when they get to the bail hearing. They get there, they have to wait on the DA. And the DA, because the DA's late, because she's like, I was at dinner and I was not about to. I was going to finish my entree. Okay.
Yeah.
So she comes in and but before she does, Theresa has these like fantasies of what would happen when she gets off. So she thinks she's gonna go through the whole trial, and the judge is gonna say, you know what? It's understandable why you did what you did. We know you killed him, but you're not going to have to serve any time for it. And then Ethan comes over to her and kisses her, hands her baby, and they're both ready to raise Julian's baby as their own, and everything's perfect. It's like you said, Fantasyland, La La Land.
Fantasyland, La La. Like Winnie says, this is the real world, not that. Also, wait till she finds out that Ethan and Gwen got back together.
Oh, that's gonna be. She's gonna be.
She doesn't know yet.
Now she is not. She is not seeing the depths that she's gonna go to.
Mm-mm.
When she finds out that that's really gonna destroy her. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
That's so fucked up
Yeah.
to think about, but yeah, that's really gonna tear her apart.
Oh yeah.
I hate that. I hate it for her, honestly, but she didn't have to do this.
No,
She didn't have to do this.
And one other
she will be back together with Ethan, I believe. I truly believe that Gwen and Ethan would have had a much harder time getting back together if she didn't do all this stuff with the house. I think that if she hadn't done all the stuff with like trying to be like the Crane heir, if she had really played it more sympathetically, she and Ethan would have gotten back together. I just believe that, because he does, as much as people talk about, well, she lied to him. Yeah, well, she has lied to him a lot, and he takes her back every time. He's obsessed.
Well, he hasn't taken her back yet, so let's not get into he's taken her back every time.
That's what I'm
right
saying.
Now, he hasn't.
He hasn't taken her back on this time. What I'm saying is, every other time he did, which is why if she hadn't done the stuff with doing the Crane heir stuff, that they would have gotten back together by this point. But she did do that, and so it's making it harder for her to get back together with Ethan. It doesn't make any sense. And now she's doing this whole thing, which is so stupid. So anyway,
one thing that struck me though, and this might have been when she was back in the jail, when she was having these fantasies about getting put to death, like there was a point where she cried out for her father. I don't know if you caught that. And that was like, why are you calling out? Like, I know that, sometimes in scary situations, you call out for your mama or daddy. Like, you didn't even cry out for your mama. You cried out for your papa.
Yeah.
Like, that man abandoned you.
Yeah.
So, like, it really did start making me think about when Lisa was talking about, like, she has abandonment issues. Or was it Karen? Someone mentioned about the abandonment issues, because in her dire moment of, like, fantasy and being put to death, she's crying out for her father.
She definitely does have abandonment issues, like bad. And that's part of the reason she doesn't have trust. That's part of the reason she doesn't trust Ethan.
No.
Baby girl needs some therapy. So.
Oh, God. They all do.
So the DA finally shows up late after having her entree at the Lobster Shack. It's Lobster Shack. We haven't been to the Lobster Shack in so long, I miss it. But anyway. I digress. She shows up. She seeks no bail for Theresa and says, and just so y'all know, we're going to be seeking the death penalty in this case. Then the judge says, I agree that Theresa Crane is a threat to society and should be denied bail. Theresa starts to panic, right? And Davis, her lawyer, objects, and the judge is like, let me finish. I agree that Mrs. Crane is a threat to society, but I think that there are extenuating circumstances here, and that the Crane family is a pillar of the Harmony community, and I think that they would vouch for Mrs. Crane and give the court some assurances that she is not a flight risk. So Davis presents an affidavit from Alistair saying that Theresa is in absolutely no way a flight risk. So he's backing her up. It seems like he's backing her up. While all of this is happening, remember how Pilar rushed out of that party after seeing Theresa strapped to the executioner's table? She's in her car, which apparently she has a car now. She's in her car and she calls the police station looking for Luis. And the officer who picks up tells her Luis isn't there. And then she overhears them talking about Theresa's bail hearing. She overhears it, realizes that Theresa and Luis are both at the courthouse. So she rushes over to the courthouse. She bursts into the courtroom screaming, "Stop this! Stop this, Theresa!" She slaps the crap out of her. And she tells Theresa to stop and says, "You didn't kill Julian." And says, I demand that you tell everyone the truth here. And she makes a big old scene, a big scene. I loved it. It was great.
It was so good. I mean, besides the fact that she slaps Theresa, because I'm gonna love that.
I loved it.
It was, and then Hertz trying to then confess. So like she was more passionate than Luis doing it, but this is her child.
Yeah.
She
says She says, I did it. I killed Julian. I hated him for what he did to my daughter. I killed him. The DA says, your son already tried that. Nobody's buying it.
Which, to me, I also find this to be hysterically, like, crazy that you have two people confessing and we're not doing an investigation.
Right.
To
You're
further
not
look into it.
That at all. But the thing is, Theresa had already, what they're saying, I don't agree. I agree with you. But what they're saying is Theresa had already confessed to the murder. Plus the other evidence is like, it's her. And we know that you're just trying to save her. Right. Because she confessed. There was gunpowder residue on her gloves. They found the gun where she said the gun would be.
Yeah, but they could have did the same thing for the other two. And we could have had tripping scenes with the other two as well, where there's gun residue and the gun goes off.
Yeah. So
here's the thing. We've already had Luis confess to try to save Theresa. We've had Pilar try to confess to protect Theresa. Where's Ethan? He's the love of your life.
He doesn't love her that much, I guess.
Not even to fake it. Because the other two, like, are lying to protect her. Ethan's not even trying to lie. Like, you think he actually did it. You have two people who's willing to lie for you, but the love of your life, who you think actually did it, isn't even going to step up.
Yeah. No. You're correct. You're making all the right points, the things that Theresa should have been thinking about, but she did not because her brain don't work so good. It don't work so good. So yeah, Pilar tries to confess. They won't let her. They're like, good try, mama, but it's not gonna work. The judge then orders bail for Theresa for $10 million. He sets the bail at $10 million. Alistair, everybody's like, well, is Alistair gonna pay that? Like, that's a lot of money. Alistair calls and agrees to pay. So he's playing this little game with Theresa right now, and he's enjoying it, you know. Theresa thinks everything's going to be fine. She tells her family, see, the Cranes take care of their own. Yeah, well, he taking care of you just like he did Sheridan. Like, yeah, the Cranes take care of their own. But poor Davis, he knows better, and he's a little... Conflict is not the right word because he's going to do whatever Alistair tells him to do, but he feels bad for Theresa in this situation.
Yeah. And Alistair had a great line at the end. Hold on, let me see if I can do an Alistair impression. Hell have no fury from Mama Pilar. Even so, nothing can save pobrecita Theresa from the death penalty.
Yay!
Yay! Got it right.
That's so funny.
Okay.
I love your Alistair impression.
Oh, no. It's just the way he said it. Like, he's trying so hard to do Spanish. Pobrecita Teresa. Because he says it different than everyone else on the show. He's like, Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. He says Theresa.
He usually says Theresa. Teresa. Yeah, but then he called her Teresita this time, I think. Yeah.
No, he said Theresa.
Oh, okay.
I wrote it down. I just couldn't see it because I didn't have my glasses on. I'm so bad.
Teresa. Well,
yeah.
That's all for them. It's time to talk about I would call it Sheridan and Luis, but it's Diana and Antonio.
Yes, let's do that.
Let's see, what music do I use for them?
Oh. No, I have a better one.
Emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
That's what we get from the storyline, my brain.
It's so boring. So let's quickly talk about it because not a whole lot here happens. But there's still stuff to talk about. Diana, Dirty Diana.
I wish. She's not even a little bit.
No, she's not. She's so pathetic. Ugh, she's so pathetic. Jesus. She's very ignorantly gambling with a stranger who means to harm her, clearly, who obviously means her no good.
She says a total stranger.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't your stranger danger thing kicking in?
She doesn't even ask this man his name. And reminder, She wants to buy Brian a birthday present. She and Brian were on a date. Brian disappeared, and then this man appeared and took her to a back room casino where she started winning at first with her $10, and she was up, but it was clearly rigged. He was clearly talking to the damn dealer, and now she's losing a lot. So she runs out of all of her money, including the money she had won. She gets up saying, I gotta go. I've lost. I don't have any more money to play with. And he says, I know this game and I can tell you're set for another winning streak. You just got to stick with it. She says, well, I don't have any money. And he says, well, you can borrow money from the house. Here, he conveniently has a marker for her to sign. He hands it to her, says, sign this and you can pay it back with your winnings. And she says, well, what if I lose? He looks at her and says, don't worry, you're going to win. Okay. He says, don't worry, you'll win. I can feel it. Sign this. She fucking signs it.
So gullible.
She signs it.
It's horrible.
This girl hasn't been to work in weeks, it seems like. And I'm glad Liz shows up this week to corroborate the fact that they've been gone for a long time. Because I'm just saying, they've been gone for a long time. And somebody else was like, no, I don't think it's been that long.
A restaurant and hotel to run.
Yeah.
Not herself.
Yeah. So this girl signs the marker to borrow money, even though she has no way to earn any money, because yes, she has her job at Liz's, but she really is like earning her keep at Liz's, right? Like she's paying for her room. You don't have any money. Anyway, she signs the marker and carries on playing. She was way too easily persuaded to do this, but she does it. She continues losing and losing and losing. She tries to quit, and this man again very easily persuades her to keep playing, saying, oh, I guess your boyfriend isn't worth that birthday present you wanted to buy him. It's just so suspicious. Like, why do you want me to keep losing money in this casino? And why do you feel so invested in it? Why are you so invested in me buying my boyfriend a birthday present? Doesn't make any fucking sense. But she doesn't think about that.
No, she doesn't think. And also a navigation system. Girl, all you have to do is give Brian some sex. That's all he wants for his birthday.
Yeah.
Fuck the navigation system.
Yeah, fuck
just
the
have sex with him.
System. Yeah.
That's all he wants.
Just don't talk about your dead lover for 10 minutes. And I think he'll be fine and happy.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, she is persuaded because she wants to buy him this navigation system. So she's persuaded to go back to playing this blackjack. She's playing blackjack. I didn't say that, but that's what she's playing. She keeps losing, of course. Because she's a fucking moron and doesn't realize this girl's a moron. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't like Diana. I don't like her. I don't like what they've done to this character at all. She's insufferable. Yeah. She's also been gone from her date for so long. You would think she would have had a moment, been like, oh, I'm being really rude to Brian on his fucking birthday. Like, left the table. Yeah. He got up to like go to the bathroom and then I disappeared. Let me go check on him. She never does that. She never goes to check on him.
Well, Brian is the same way. He's off playing billiards, not like and mentioning, well, I left Diana at the table by herself. What are we doing, people?
What are we doing? He plays a whole game, an entire game. So yeah, she has been roped into going into a lot of debt in this casino. And the guy tries to pressure her to keep playing, but she finally is like, no, I gotta go. And says, I have to come back to pay you. And he says, I'll tally up everything you owe and let you know. That should also tell you something fucking fishy and crazy is going on here, considering we don't know each other. How are you going to tally everything up and find me and let me know? What you didn't get my phone number. You don't know my name. This was clearly a setup.
Yep.
So she heads back to her table. Meanwhile, Brian is having this conversation with this guy Nick, who and they're playing pool. And Brian stands up to Nick because Nick's trying to get him to either pay him back or come back to work for him. Like, it's kind of unclear what Nick really wants. But he definitely wants his money back one way or the other. So either Brian can just pay him the money, or Brian can come and be a scammer with him and make him some money, I guess.
Yeah. They were talking about something about like a workers' retirement fund scheme.
Yes. So we found out last week that Brian, and they talked more about it this week, that Nick believes that Brian owes him all of this money because Brian basically told the authorities that Nick was setting up this scheme to steal people's pension plans. And he started working for Nick, thinking Nick was like on the up and that everything was legit. And then he realized that it was, that they were scamming people, and he blew the whole operation up. And that's why Nick believes that Brian owes him money, because he's like, I would have made a fortune off of that plan, but you blew it to hell. So of course we don't believe that Brian owes him any money. Of course I was thinking Brian actually owed him money, but he doesn't. He just is mad because Brian cost him, his scam, right? Exactly. So Brian stands up to Nick basically because Brian feels like, I don't have anything to lose. There's nothing you can take from me. He tells him, there's nothing you can take away from me. So you can keep trying, but I don't have any money. And I don't even have anything worth stealing, worth taking. You can't hurt me, basically. Meanwhile, Nick is watching Diana while she's gambling before she quits. He's watching her on some kind of like weird device, handheld device, but he's watching her remotely, which was kind of cool. Yeah. And after winning the pool game, Brian wins the pool game. He's ready to head back to Diana. He's real smug about it. He's like, yeah, you can't take anything from me, and it is what it is. And he heads back. He realizes that Diana's gone from the table, and Nick is behind him, is like looking for someone. and so Brian grabs him and is like, what'd you do with Diana? Get her right now. Nick tells him she'll be fine as long as you and I can talk. We just need to keep talking. And he just keeps telling Brian, I want my money, Brian. I want my money, Brian. And Brian keeps telling him, I don't have any money, Nick. I don't have any fucking money. Diana finally walks back, and he sees her, grabs her, very quickly pulls her out of the restaurant, and they head back to the hotel. And that's when the man who was gambling with Diana, we finally learn his name is Stan. Of course, his name is Stan and Nick, these two goons. Yeah. Stan delivers the marker to Nick, who says that Diana's marker is insurance, so that he can get Brian back whenever he wants. Again, I don't entirely know or understand what Nick's motivations, not his motivations. I know what his motivation is. I don't know what his goal is, what he wants from Brian. Because at one point he talks about Diana paying with her life. So is it just to hurt him?
Yeah, maybe because he won't work with him. So he's like, well, then, seek some kind of revenge. So we're just going to hurt the person you love.
Yeah, I'll go with that. So they go back to the hotel. Brian tells her, we got to get out of here. He's packing their stuff. We got to get off this island. Diana's like, what is it? Why are you so upset? What's got you so worried and spooked? He finally tells her all about Nick and the pension fraud. He tells her, there's nothing to worry about, but we just need to get out of here. It seems like there's something to worry about. You are terrified. Like, he was shaking. Yeah. Yeah. So,
and she never told him about what happened to her.
No.
She never said, by the way, I owe a lot of money.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Yeah. No. Well, he was already upset. I guess she didn't want to upset him further. Not the time. Read the room.
Not the time. Yeah, I know, right?
It's his birthday after all.
It's his birthday.
So,
owe a lot of money. No navigation system. I guess I'm just gonna have to have sex with him.
I just gotta throw this pussy at him.
And that's all he ever wanted.
That's all he wants. That's all he wants. So Brian leaves the room to go and find a way off the island. They need to get back to St. Lisa's Island ASAP, right? He goes to the concierge. The concierge says there's no flights off the island tonight. There's no more flights unless you want to charter a plane. But it's very expensive. Brian's like, I don't have that kind of money. And then he's like, I have an idea. And he calls Liz. This pissed me off.
It pissed me off too. I wrote down like, Liz is so fucking pathetic.
Yeah,
so
I
fucking
wrote that
pathetic.
too. I wrote that too. I was like, this is pathetic, Liz. Like, this is pathetic, babe. Come on. He has to figure it out for himself. But anyway, he calls Liz and he tells her that he needs her to come pick him and Diana up tonight in the middle of the night. I need you to come pick me up. She says, well, how am I supposed to do that? He says, don't you still have that little plane out in the hangar? Fuel it up and come and pick us up.
Who the fuck are you?
Now we know that Liz also can pilot a plane. Good for you, girl. Love
yeah,
her.
no, I'm really proud of her, but who the fuck is Brian to be telling me, go get your plane and come get me?
Yeah, who are you talking to?
You know she has a crush on you, and you're just gonna use her like that and play on that emotion.
I want to be clear too. It's not just a crush. They had a relationship together.
That's right.
She's his ex.
That's right.
And he knows that she still has feelings for him. It's so deeply inappropriate, and it's so deeply, it's mean. It's so mean and selfish. For him to be calling her in the middle of the night to drop everything and fly your plane, fuel up your plane with your money, fly your plane to Bermuda, pick us up and bring us back. All on your own dime, because I don't have any money to pay you. Not only that, I haven't been at work in weeks.
And she brings it up too. She's like, oh, it's nice to hear from you because, I'm missing my waitress.
Yeah. She's like, where the hell are you? I thought y'all were only going to be there for a couple of days. So that they've been there for a long time. As I thought, as I suspected.
Oh yeah. One thing I did notice, Liz didn't wish him a happy birthday.
Maybe she didn't know it was his birthday.
They were in a relationship. How are you not going to know when's his birthday?
Maybe he didn't tell her when his birthday was, and maybe they broke up before, it was his before his birthday.
It wasn't established how long they were together. It was just that they were together.
It's just like that they had spent some time together in a relationship. So it's unclear. It is unclear, but maybe. But maybe you're right. Maybe she didn't want to wish him a happy birthday. Maybe she maybe she did know and just didn't want to say anything. Yeah. So Liz comes and picks them up. Liz's pathetic ass comes and picks them up, and they leave. Stan, the man, finds out from one of his buddies that works in the hotel that Brian and Diana checked out, and so and finds out that they're headed to St. Lisa's Island. So Nick decides to go to St. Lisa's Island himself as well. When Brian and Diana get back to St. Lisa's Island, Brian has a conversation with Liz alone where he thanks her for picking them up. And Liz is like, well, I need you to tell me what the hell is going on. And you need to tell me everything. Tell me all the things. So he spills the tea on the whole sordid details of his past, but also what happened on Bermuda, including when he met with Luis. He even tells her about meeting up with Luis and everything. So she's up to speed on absolutely everything that happened on Bermuda. And meanwhile, Diana goes this was so stupid. She goes to her room. She tells Brian, Brian, after you talk to Liz, come by my room before you go to bed, right? She sets up her room for sexy time, candles absolutely everywhere. She draws a giant card that says happy birthday, Brian.
I was like, Diane made a birthday card. Yeah, like a 7-year-old. Yeah. I'm like, she made a birthday card like a 7-year-old. Are there no birthday cards on the island?
Well,
in a hotel?
And it was just so unnecessary. It was a little, I want to say 11 by 14 maybe. It was bigger than a regular size piece of paper. And she wrote on it like it was a poster board, and she like sat it up with her like beautiful candles and everything. It was like,
Yeah.
again, it looked like a 7-year-old did it. And it just didn't fit the aesthetic, but whatever. I guess it's the thought that counts. She then says, oh, I need to take a shower. I hope Brian doesn't come before I'm out of the shower. I'll just unlock my door just in case. So she unlocks her door and then goes and gets in the shower. It's like, oh, let me just unlock this door for any murderers who want to kill me while I'm in the shower. Girl,
Exactly, because it's a hotel.
listen, I don't even like taking showers at my own home with my doors locked when I'm alone in here. Like I'm paranoid about like being in the shower like late at night or something. And you know,
instant psycho vibes.
Exactly.
Instant like, oh my God.
Exactly. So like if nobody's
crazy.
here in the apartment, if I'm at the apartment by myself and I'm taking a shower, I'll like leave my I'll leave the bathroom door open. If somebody's here, I'll close it. But if nobody's here, I'll leave the bathroom door open and I'll leave the curtain a little ajar so I can hear because I'm scared somebody's going to come paranoid. But this lady leaves her door wide open, unlocked.
Unlocked.
To her
Not
room.
open. She unlocks it.
Yeah, completely. Well, to me, unlocked is open. I think of unlocked is wide open. If I go to my mom's house or my uncle in Florida, they never lock their they never lock their doors. And every time I'm there, I'm just like, y'all's door is wide open. Do y'all know your door is wide open? Like I should have to knock. I should have to ring a doorbell. But some people in small towns and stuff, they just leave their doors unlocked. So
they do.
That's wide open.
I've been to my in-laws that lived in Virginia, and they would get mad at me because if I were to came in as a group and I'm the last one in, instinctively I turn around and I would lock the door. And so then later they'll go to open it. They're like, who closed this door? I'm like, no, me. I closed it.
I lock people's doors all the time when I come into their homes. I lock the door behind me all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Because
they're like,
because
who's
I'm
locking
here
the door?
now.
Me.
Maybe you don't care about your life, but I'm here now. So we're locking the doors.
We're locking the doors. And first thing I say, I'm from New York. We lock our doors.
Yes.
That's it.
I'm from Chattanooga. We lock our doors. You lock
our doors. And you don't have one lock. You have multiple locks and a deadbolt.
Yeah. A couple of locks. Yeah, one of those little things you put up against the door so people can't get in. Even
oh my God. The old slide lock.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So anyway, that's pretty much it. Nick shows up.
There was one point when he's talking to Liz and she's like, tell me everything. But then he starts to talk about him and Diane and she's like, I don't need to know those details.
I don't need to know those details.
I don't need to know those details. And he went and he's like, oh, okay. And then proceeded to tell her details. I'm like, you're so messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. Nick shows up to the hotel. He's there to get a room. And we'll see what happens next week. That's all she wrote. So with that, everybody. Oh, wait. Maria, do you want anybody to follow you anywhere?
Just come to the Discord.
All right. And
leave comments under the videos because I'm starting to actually look at them. And we can have conversations if you like. Yes,
please comment. If you're watching on YouTube, definitely comment on the YouTube videos. And even if you're like listening, you can, if you want to like join into the conversation about the specific episodes, that's the best way to do it, is to go over to the YouTube channel and like start commenting, because we can start up conversations in the comments. That doesn't bother me one bit. So
nope.
With that, you are my passion for life.